record also on this garage band. Let's see how that goes. Yes, we'll chant this shloka. I suggest, since I'm having trouble scrolling this, I suggest you download it by clicking here, Gita Dhyanam, the last file here in the current class text. You click on that and then, I can just turn this off because, I'm having trouble scrolling and I will not be able to scroll. There is a lot of feedback with the sound. What kind of feedback? Okay, is this better now? Let me know if it's better. Has the food gone? Yes? No? Maybe? Yeah, because there was some issue. No, here, Gita Dhyanam. It's not growing spiritually here. I have highlighted this. In under current class text, after chanting, there is Gita Dhyanam PDF. Is that for something else? It's not for that one? Are you able to download it? Yes? No? Okay. It should look like what it looks like on the screen. Yeah, Gita Dhyanam PDF. Okay? Yeah. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to turn this off because it's a distraction. I'm not able to do this properly. Okay, let's just do it. You can just follow from the file. Yeah. Okay? Yes. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Puranamunina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaധ്യായിനീം Amba Tvamanusandathami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim. And then we'll chant the last one. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanisadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantanna Vidusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Om. Okay, so by the time this retreat is over, we'll learn to chant all of the chants. That will be nice. Okay, so we will learn to do that. Right now, we are just chanting the first one and the last one. So at some point, we'll chant all of them. So we are talking about a number of things. Yesterday, a lot of things were alluded to. And what were they? We talked about the need for, yesterday, we talked about the need for growth, not just physical growth, which happens automatically, by the way. You don't need any effort for physical growth. Everything grows, starting with the stomach. Everything grows on its own. You don't need anything else. You don't need, any free will, intervention, effort. Nothing is needed, for this kind of a growth. Physically, it keeps growing and growing and growing. And but we are talking about a corresponding growth in the emotional infrastructure of the person. That this is something which is very important to understand, because the whole life is really about this growth, without which one is not happy. Of course, if you're a dog or a cat, this does not apply to you. We are not talking of the, four-footed, six-footed, eight-footed things, jivas. We are talking about the 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 dire need of the human being for this growth, without which there is no happiness, there is no shanti, there is no happiness at all. Because even the person who is just going about their day, maybe they have never heard of the Bhagavad Gita, maybe they have never heard of Vedanta, or even, any kind of they have not joined any self-help group or whatever. There comes a time in the person's life where that striving to excel gets the better of the person. And when the striving to excel gets the better of the body-mind complex, it leads to a breakdown, a premature breakdown. That is the recipe for heart attacks, anxiety attacks, all kinds of things happening, because that is what it is. And of course, all the vyadhis, jara, old age, disease comes as a result of karma and as a result of the natural aging process. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. The Bhagavad Gita says that which is certain to be born is certain to die. So part of it is the what is that called? A certain kind of a degeneration, which is Prakriti based, Ishvara Srishti, which is the goddess in action. Everything that is meant to fall apart is falling apart. But what do we do? What we do is one hastens the process. Yes. So you outdo Prakriti herself. How? Because one is striving for excelling, striving for excellence. This is the motto of some company I read. And this is actually the debacle of the jiva. Because really speaking, it's like running on a wheel of that, sometimes people keep rats in Western countries as the pet. Very dangerous. Not recommended, but anyhow, people do that. And the rat has a name. It starts with H. What is that called? It goes on that wheel. Hamster. Yes, hamster. So this hamster, to play, for it to play, you give a little merry-go-round, a little thing that it just goes on all day long. It's just going on and on. And you can look in the cage and you can say how cute, and then you can say how silly. It doesn't know that it's not going anywhere. And the person who is addressing the hamster and saying, oh, you poor thing, you're just going round and round in the same place, has not the least idea that they are also doing the same exact thing. Except the wheel, is the wheel of Kala, the wheel of time. And here, the same cycle is repeated. It's like a giant wheel of time, where one has, a lot more space, unlike the hamster's wheel, which is tiny and which is inside a cage. Here one has a lot more space. The wheel is bigger and spans several hundreds, thousands of years, called yugas. Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and then what else? What are we right now in? Kali Yuga. All this, it is spanning happily. And in the process, what is happening is that the person does not know. Person here means jiva, this living being who is repeating the same pattern. And what is the pattern? Striving for excellence. Why is that a bad pattern? It's a bad pattern because that excellence which you seek is yourself alone. So the striving is necessary, but a different kind of effort is necessary. The effort is more of a cognitive effort to understand that in order to be repatriated with my own glory, It's a cognitive shift. That is where the right effort is put. The right effort is put towards gaining a teacher, towards dropping all the things that are not working in my life, towards rebooting my whole enterprise and my whole truck with life. I have to reboot that. I have to restart because it's not working. And guess what? It has not been working. Like Bhagavan Krishna tells Arjuna, you know, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna tani aham vetha sarvani natvam vetha parantapa. Fourth chapter, Lord Krishna announces that, I have been around for a long time. I have my presence has graced the earth on a number of occasions in the form of various avatars. And then your presence has also graced the earth on number of occasions. And what is the difference between you and me? The problem is that you don't remember anything. You don't remember the previous births, but I know my previous, presence on the earth and in the Jagat, and I also know your presence. And your previous presences on the earth, Lord Krishna is very polite, doesn't say, is covered with the same, ignorance, leading to the same dynamics, same patterns, an ignominious life, life after life after life after life. This is what is it? This is called Kala Chakra. And so like the hamster's wheel, the jiva is reproducing the same tactics again and again. Now the question can arise, this is not fair. Why is this? Why did Bhagavan make me forget the last life? And so this seems like a bad setup. The wailing baby, the newborn baby, does not remember anything from the past life. He's born fresh, clean slate. This is not fair because how am I going to learn what I did wrong in the last life? How I reproduced the pattern and how I strove for excellence in the wrong way, not understanding my own glory, and how I wasted many lives without looking for a teacher, without, joining this, this effort for self-growth, without even doing this. How come, I did that? And now I didn't choose to forget. The forgetting happened because of Maya, a Shakti of the Lord. So it's the Lord's consort, Maya, that made me born in avidya. Avidya of the past, avidya of myself, avidya of everything around me. There is, this is how I was born. So this is not fair that Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, yay, I know everything about my past. I know about your past. The problem is you don't know what all you have done and where all you have been. But this is not a moment to gloat, Lord Krishna. You must not be gloating over this because this is an unfair setup. One can level this accusation at the Lord, where else to level this kind of accusation? And then what happens as a result of this? One quickly realizes that, the forgetting, apohanam. Apohanam means forgetting. It's a wonderful thing, really. This apohanam is a blessing rather than than a bane. It's not a curse, it's a blessing. Think of how much guilt and hurt that one carries in this life. I wish I was better. I wish I had done this more. I wish I had not done this. So many things. So many regrets. With regard to one's parents, with regards to one's, elders, with regard to one's siblings. And all the dropped balls, all the dropped relationships, all the dropped bombshell in the form of wrong words used, one relationship destroyed. And even in one life, we can barely live with the burden of this guilt and hurt, surrounded as we are with a few people that we call, connected to us. Imagine if you remembered all the past lives, all the mothers that you might have abandoned, all the fathers that you did not want to, forgive, all the siblings that you had rivalry with life after life. Imagine the person would not even get up from bed. The baby would just choke itself in the womb. It would just not wish to be born if it remembered all these things. So really speaking, Bhagavan has given this gift, even though it looks like an iffy gift, it's a gift. Matta smritihi jnanam apohanam cha, 15th chapter. Very beautiful. From me alone is smriti, remembrance. And from me alone is knowledge, jnanam, knowledge of yourself, knowledge of para and apara, both, knowledge of everything that is material in the world and knowledge of yourself, knowledge of Brahman as yourself. Okay? And then finally from me alone, in my form alone is apohanam. Beautiful. Apohanam means the ability to forget, which is a blessing. Otherwise, all the grudges, and the cudgels that one carries from life after life will be a very big burden. But then that does not address how am I growing? How am I learning from the previous, wrong choices that I may have made? We shouldn't even call them errors of understanding. How am I trying to, what makes me grow? This is a very interesting question. If I don't remember what I have done, erroneously, if I don't remember my erroneous choices, how am I to drop them? Well, we don't have to worry about that because, like I said yesterday, one is hardwired to gain this excellence, to be in touch with this excellence, to completely embrace it, because it's not completely unfamiliar. It is terribly familiar. Somehow it is familiar. Like I told you, the musician, who cannot reach that note because there is some kind of a constriction in the voice, having laryngitis, just points to the note. I am familiar with it. I'm not able to reach it yet. It is familiar because it is you. It is you. So really speaking, you don't, need to be chastised or chastise yourself for making wrong choices in previous lives. Forget the previous life. Apohanam, Bhagavan in the form of Apohanam comes. Our birth is but a sleep and forgetting. This is very interesting. William Blake, one of the romantic poets, said in what is that? What was that text? Songs of Innocence and Experience. Really something to read. It is just so beautiful. All these romantic poets, they were blessed by a touch of Vedanta. Really wonderful. Our birth is but a sleep and forgetting. This is how the poem begins. And he says we come from a star. And he says, this is something like that. But very beautiful. What is important for us is our birth is but a sleep and forgetting. This forgetting is really interesting because it gives a chance, because there's no, one is not, the Hindu tradition is very, very generous in terms of this spiritual development, in terms of emotional maturity. It does not blame the person for not gaining this maturity in some other life. It does not chastise the person as a sinner. It does not chastise the person for being slow or being dull-witted about the correct choices in life to make. Does not call the person dim-wit. Does not dismiss the person. Instead gives a long rope. Yes, a long rope, a big leeway. You didn't get it in this life, no worries, next life. Now, why didn't you get it in this life? Because there were some, tussling priorities. They were tussling with one another, these priorities, these desires, they needed to be fulfilled. And the first mother, the first portion of the Veda says, go ahead and fulfill them. I will keep you safe. I will keep you ethically, morally safe, because I'm going to give you the way to fulfill these desires. No, but I'm not interested in self-growth. Never mind. The first mother makes one into a bhakta. It is just beautiful, just gorgeous. And the second mother, weans you from the pressure of those desires so that one can commit to the self-growth. That is Vedanta. We talked about it at length yesterday. And so this is something enchanting that I find about the Hindu tradition, that there is no chastisement, because already one is having so much guilt and self-judgment, non-acceptance of oneself, striving for something that I don't feel like I can get, something that is elusive, something that is exclusive. I'm always, working for it. And like the hamster on the wheel, keeping on reproducing the same thing over and over again. Yet, from the mother, the Veda, there is no judgment. No judgment at all. No, but I have this desire. What is your desire? Well, I want to, visit as many places as possible. Okay, go for it. Just remember, the Veda says, don't transgress on other people's rights to do the same, other people's privileges. Let not your entitlement to fulfill a desire ride roughshod over other people's shots at the same. And this is where the mothering comes. The Veda does not smother, it just mothers beautifully. It keeps you morally safe, where you don't go into the dangerous realms of, experimentation with going against the flow of the norms, the societal norms, cultural norms, customary norms, unspoken norms, in fact, what we call dharma, dharyate, that which sustains the whole jagat, the unspoken, universal matrix of norms called dharma. It makes you go along with that. The Veda makes you toe the line in a very nice way. Oh, you want to go so many places? Go. This is how, but I don't have money to buy a round the world ticket. Okay, don't worry. Money you will get. How? Shall I rob a bank? No, not necessary to rob a bank. It's a big headache. What if you get caught? Let me show you a way where you can get the money and without needing to have all this needless anxiety about planning a grand larceny and then getting caught, etc. Don't worry about it. And then you have to, worry about all these faithless co-conspirators that that might outwit you. You can't trust all of them. So don't worry. So what should I do? Well, let's gather some twigs. Twigs? But I want money. Yes, it'll come. Gather some twigs. Oh, so can't I just cut down a tree? No, not allowed. You just gather the twigs and branches that have already fallen. Okay. Been there, done that. Okay, done. What should I do next? Wait for them to dry because it's cold, wet season. You can't do anything right now with them. You mean I have to wait? Yes. What should I do as I wait? Do some prayer. Do other desires are there which might be smaller than this world traveling. You fulfill that. Oh, okay. And then okay, now the twigs and the kindling is dry. All right. So you can do a Shri Sukta Homa. You can do a fire ritual for the goddess, to propitiate the goddess of prosperity. But how will that get me what I want? Simple. Very simple, because when you are busy doing this, you're invoking the goddess of prosperity. And that invocation itself rids you of the scarcity mentality, that this is what I have, this is what I don't have this, I don't have that, I want. That scarcity mentality, it goes. And when the scarcity mentality goes, that is what attracts abundance. Because the abundance is already there. Resources abound, everything is there. But I'm not able to connect with it because the block is here. It's not that Lakshmi is not blessing me. The goddess of prosperity is not blessing me. No. Her blessings are there. I'm not able to receive it. And so, by a strange process, by some kind of a process whose means and ends we cannot really trace, that is why Shraddha. Shraddha means I trust that somehow drying the kindling and then pouring ghee on top of this kindling and lighting it up with an invocation to the mother of abundance and prosperity is going to do the trick. How? Don't ask, because then the means are unknown here. The end, which is money or whatever, prosperity, abundance, is known. So this is what the Veda is, this is how she mothers. Because already you have waited 2 months or maybe 1 month for the kindling to dry. This is in the age where they didn't have dehydrators and all those things, So you waited for the kindling to dry. After that, what did you do? You just, did this invocation. And then, you can't just do a fire ritual without giving away things. You have to give away a lot of things. And this is a person who feels, I don't have anything to give. The person is forced to give, because you have to give food. You have to feed a lot of people. And when people come to attend a homa, you cannot send them empty-handed. You have to give them a little gift. And usually people give a little silver bowl or a silver lamp, a tea light or something like that. But that also traditionally is not allowed. Barhishi rajatam nadeyam. Don't give silver when you invite people for a fire ritual. Oh, what does that mean? What might that mean? Don't give silver means what? Huh? Give gold, ityartha. Give gold. And why is this said? Because you have to allow a little, growing pain to happen, before that transformation can happen. So the person should not give silver. And there is a story why you shouldn't give silver. Agnihi arodit. The fire cried. Lord, in the form of the fire, cried. And when human beings cry, you have salty, saline tears, correct? Yeah. But when fire cries, when the Lord fire cries, what is the tear? The tears is molten silver. And that's why whoever gives silver, when you invite people to witness and bless your enterprise and pray for you, for your fire ritual to succeed, then they have cause to cry within the end of the year. This is a prophecy. Does it work? We don't know. This is all based on Shraddha. It's a non-verifiable belief. Do you want to try and test this belief? No. Already I'm crying. Let me give something plastic. I'll give Tupperware, instead of this. Let me just safely give out Tupperware when I invite people to a yajna. Let's not play with fire literally. Let's not play with silver and fire. So this is just given because the idea is you have to have certain, you have to give beyond your means. You have to give until it hurts. And it hurts because one is not ready to give. And why is one not ready to give? Because there is a mental block of scarcity. And you transcend that scarcity of not giving by giving. This is what the Veda says. Samaveda says this. Danena adanam tara. Cross your inability to give by giving. This is what it is. Only by giving you can cross the inability to give. And this is the beauty of the Veda. This is the beauty of how, we cannot just dismiss the first portion because it gives this impetus for preparation. Doesn't matter what one did in the last life. How come I didn't prepare in the last life? Doesn't matter. That's not the question to ask. The question to ask is, what opportunities for growth do I have in this life that I may be, not cognizant of? What opportunities are there that I'm letting slip by right here, right now? Asmin Janmani. In this birth, we're not worried about the future, much less are we concerned with the past. And so that is how the preparation, slowly over time takes place in a nurturing atmosphere without judgment and without any kind of, chastisement, no finger wagging. The Veda is, the first portion of the Veda is not a finger wagging mother, not a nagging, wagging mother. See, I told you so. See, you should have been ready 6 lifetimes ago. And what did you do? In one lifetime, you just movies. And in another lifetime, you just did this, you just did that. No. No chastisement at all. And in this kind of a nurturing atmosphere, spanning many, many lifetimes, the person is allowed to grow at their own pace. This is what the beauty of the Veda is. And one grows by, learning to be in a, learning to be in tandem with this universal matrix of norms. More about that we'll be talking. By learning to go along with the universal matrix of norms. Because that, for us, is a manifestation of the divine, of Bhagavan. It's a manifestation. It's in other tradition. Also they have dharma. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not, do this. Covet other people's possessions, and thou shalt not do all these things. But all the shoulds and the should nots are seen as mandates coming from God, who is sitting somewhere not locally available. But for us, that Bhagavan is manifest as dharma, as everything really, because that Bhagavan is, nameless, formless presence, a sentient presence that takes on, that lends its presence to all the names and forms, and without being any one of them. This is what our understanding is. So dharma, we cannot say, comes from Bhagavan. I mean, that's not correct really. I mean, you can say that colloquially, but the understanding should go deeper. Dharma is non-separate from Bhagavan. We can even take it a step further if you are ready. Dharma is a manifestation of Bhagavan. Wherever there is dharma, there is Bhagavan. This is what I have to see. And so the Veda makes me go close to Bhagavan, which I cannot see, which I cannot relate to, which I am searching for, from whom I am alienated, by connecting me to what is correct. And so only in the Hindu tradition, dharma becomes the first purushartha. What is purushartha? Sarvaihi purushaihi arthyate. That which is, desired by all people. Sarvaihi purushaihi arthyate iti purushartha. That which is desired by each and every person. Universal. This is not, if we talk about desires, the discussion about desires immediately falls apart. Why? Because my desire is different from your desire. Completely. What I desire is not what you desire. There is one song, you say potato, I say potato, like that. Everything is different. And everything is completely different. The likes and dislikes, etc. But there is something that unites us in the face of all these different ragadveshas that one carries. The ragadveshas trying to get married to one another, the ragadveshas avoiding one another, all these things. In the face of this cacophony of ragadveshas, fighting to be heard, striving to come out and play, pushing the other one out, there is something that is universal. And that something which is universal is desired by all. Because we are talking from the standpoint of desire. This is something which is desired by all. What is that? Dharma. This dharma is the desire for dharma is the yearning for a pattern where everything is all right, which is larger than oneself. Is a yearning to be in tandem with a pattern of smooth, harmonious living, where I learn to live, without hurting myself and hurting others. Everybody learns to do that, yearns to do that. Everybody yearns to do that. Even a person who is who picks a fight at the smallest drop of a hat. Some people are like that. They are, highly interested or highly given to conflict. And so even such a person will say, I wish I didn't have to do this. I can't help myself. So dharma, the yearning for dharma is a yearning for a peaceable existence where I live in harmony with everything around me. And that harmony, my friends, is a precursor to the oneness that one really strives, is a precursor to that excellence, to be in touch with that glory that one strives. So dharma comes very close. It's on the brink of Vedanta. It's a little link that connects Veda to Vedanta, the first and the second mothers. They are linked by this, chain of dharma. So dharma is not just righteousness. That's just a glossing over superficial translation. We can begin there, but we have to go deeper. The yearning for dharma is a yearning to be in peace, to be at peace with myself, with others around me, with every other life form, with everything. Chara, charatmakam, that which moves, that which doesn't move. Savara, jangama, that which is, sentient, that which is insentient. I don't want to be in conflict with anything. I don't want to be in conflict with anybody. This is the first way. When that desire comes, it's the stirrings for the yearning of dharma. So the desire for dharma, gets up and stretches itself when one when one notices or is cognizant of the desire for peace, desire to be at harmony with everything, desire to be at peace, the desire to not be constantly in conflict, constantly, at loggerheads with everything. That desire is the stirring for the yearning of dharma. So that is the first way we recognize in ourselves that there is something missing because constantly I'm in conflict. I want some kind of a relative peace. We are not talking of absolute shanti. Esha brahmi sthithif partha nainam prapya vimuhyati sthitva syam antakalepi brahma nirvanam richati. The concluding verse of the second chapter. Is talking of a universal desire again in the form of this peace. And this peace, that gaining which, this shanti, gaining which one is not disturbed at all. And one gains Brahman as oneself. So that is an absolute shanti where one discovers as a result of the teaching. What does one discover? That I am that shanti. I am already at peace. I don't want to make peace happen. There is one bumper sticker which used to be very common, make peace not war. Guess what? This is a peace that doesn't have to be made because it is uncreated, it simply is, it is infinite, it is limitless, it is myself alone. This harmony is myself alone. This absolute resolution of conflict is myself alone because I am of the nature of a resolved Atma. The self is already resolved. It's resolved of all ragadveshas. It's resolved of all things that lead to disturbance. This is the ultimate vision. But to ready myself for that ultimate vision, I have to be in harmony with the manifest universe. And so that desire for harmony is inbuilt. You ask anybody, you ask even the person who is always at loggerheads with everything, they are tired. They'll say, I don't want conflict, but I don't know how to not do this. You ask anybody, you ask people in all these conflicted regions, Syria, all these things, why, do you want this? No. And even you ask these terrorist groups, what is that called? ISIS. You ask ISIS, do you want conflict? They'll say no. Other people are forcing us because we are not getting what we want. What do you want? Just world domination, that's all. But once we get that, we will also be at peace. They will say that. Nobody likes conflict. And so dharma, the desire for dharma, is to be in touch with that which sustains, dharyate, that dharyate idam jagat, that which sustains the entire jagat. I want to be in sync with that. That is the first stirrings of the desire for dharma. But we are not, but we still fall short. We are not completely, describing dharma yet. That is the beginning. And then what? What do I have to do in order to gain this harmony? That's the second step to take to come closer to the dharma. That is the second step. And what do I have to do? I have to follow that harmony in my life. So if I want other people to be harmonious with me in their interactions, guess what? What do I have to do? I have to have a harmonious demeanor in my interaction with others. This one learns. This is kindergarten stuff. If you share your toys nicely, then the other people will also share their toys. If you just whack all the kids around and snatch their toys, tomorrow you are going to get whacked and your toys are going to be taken away. This is what it is. Because dharma is not, you cannot enforce it really. You can have a lot of laws in place, but most of it just is, it's a magical moment, or rather a series of magical moments of interactions where smoothly, Bhagavan is in charge, and Bhagavan in the form of dharma brings out the best in you. You're standing in line, somebody cuts in line. It happens in India all the time. And then you have a choice. Either you can shout at them, or you can pause. And you can say, okay, that means I may have to be in this line for 15 minutes more. Or more. Maybe 15 minutes I have to be in this line. And then what? More opportunity to allow all those rankling feelings of entitlement, outrage. How could somebody do this to me? Who is this me? No, but I have so many things to do. Well, right now you have to deal with what happened. You have to deal with the fact that somebody cut you and they are standing there shamelessly and they are not showing any sign of moving. And then, small detail, they weigh a lot more than you and they are much taller than you. So therefore you don't want a confrontation because you may end up in the hospital. That person will not end up in the hospital. You will end up in the hospital because that person is already belligerent and has pushed you aside and stood in front. So what choice do you have? If you had a choice, you can perhaps talk to them. Bhai Sahab, brother, sister, whatever it is, you shouldn't have done this, you can talk to them. And here, the mere talking, the thought of talking is, is making your knees, knock against one another, seeing the size of that person. So what choice is there? You can go back and come another day because you have a lot of things to do and you can't stand in line. Or you can use that opportunity to just be in harmony with what is, even though you do not like it. This is the second part of dharma. The first part is the desire for that in peace and harmony. And the second part is knowing that this harmony cannot happen without my input, without my participation. In fact, I am the harbinger of this harmony. I am the one that makes this happen. I have choices here and I can escalate this situation and involve the whole crowd and be a drama, king or queen. And I can escalate my choices can either, the choices that I exercise can either escalate the situation or they can bring the calm to the situation. In the first instance, one is just a jiva, just a regular jiva. In the second instance, one has grown into a sannyasi. That's what it is. An inner sannyasi where the heart is wearing an orange frock. Yeah. And, one has grown into being in harmony with everything, because that harmony starts with oneself. If one is disturbed, then that disturbance goes. One distributes ashanti like pamphlets, for free. Like sometimes, in airports and bus stations everywhere, there are some people who want to advertise something. A new shop has become opened. Please visit our store. A new, we are starting a new something here or there. It's right close to here. Here is a flyer. Come. So they are distributing leaflets, at the airports and the bus stations and in public places. And what is the jiva doing? The jiva is distributing for free ashanti. Yes, you can do that. You can stand, how you walk your life is really tantamount to what kind of a atmosphere that you create around you. You can constantly be jostling, fighting for your rights, doing this, doing that. Or you can grow into a person who has, who radiates this Shanti. Here I can use the word radiate. Yeah, there's something about that. Radiate the Shanti. And we saw that, in Pujya Swamiji, Swami Dayananda ji, we could see this. He would walk into a place and immediately even this, screaming entities, people who had some truck with him or whatever with a situation, would immediately calm down. I remember once, a man came into the ashram. Nobody knew him, nobody had seen him, but that was not something to think about because a lot of new people also came. But something distinguished this man from other visitors to the ashram. And what was that? The man looked like he was just ready for a fight. He looked angry, belligerent, would not back down. He had already been rude to the people who greeted him. And he just said, I want to see the Swami. Yeah, no G at the end, no respect, nothing. I want to see Swami. Okay. Swamiji was having his tea and he was taken to the hall where Swamiji was sitting having his tea in the afternoon, and he immediately said, I want to defeat you in a debate. I want vada with you. This is, this is like a street urchin, wearing a pair of boxing gloves, some little small, little thin fellow child of the street saying, I want to challenge Muhammad Ali. That is what it looked like. There was no match. This man was just completely acting in anger and was a very angry person, angry young man, and not that young, but still much younger to Swamiji. And, and he just came at Swamiji. And he says, you, with your Advaita, think that everything is one and whatnot. I'm going to prove to you, he said. You just have a debate with me, and I'm going to defeat you in this debate, and I'm going to prove to you that, that this Advaita is nothing, that you are nothing. You're just, just running these ashrams. What are you doing? And Swamiji was reading something and correcting some transcript. I remember this clearly. And very unhurriedly, slowly, spontaneously, he just put that down and gave a short look to that man. That didn't help him. That man became even more agitated. And then he looked, at me and said, why don't we get him a nice cup of tea? He asked the man some mundane question, where have you come from? It was quite far. He had changed 2 buses and come and everything. So he said, why don't you get him a nice cup of tea? And if there is something to eat, bring that also, he said. So very soon a tray of biscuits and tea materialized, and the man was kind of at a loss. Like, what is happening here? I came, ran into this person, but it was like running into a wall because there is no reaction from this person other than how did you come? How far have you traveled? Oh, you must be tired. Let's give you some tea. So then he had the tea, but his rankling desire for defeating Swamiji in the debate or whatever it was, silly thought, did not leave him. So as he finished the tea, he again said, I want this, I want that, I want to defeat you. What are you doing? Again very angry. And Swamiji simply picked up the transcript that he was correcting, some letters he was writing, and continued to do that. And the matter was dismissed. He did not engage with him more than that. And then in that time, that man was ignored. He had his tea. And the next thing we knew, I was a little, worried. What is going to be his next action? And you know what? It was so climactic, anticlimactic. He just got up and he meekly asked, where should I keep the cup? I pointed the place where he should keep the cup, and he just walked away, went away, and we never saw him again. He never came back again. So what happened in this, what happened was that the Mahatma did not escalate the conflict. This is what it is. Why? Because there is no conflict in here. For the Mahatma, there was no conflict in here. So when somebody comes at you, you don't try to defend Advaita. That's not the time to defend. You can defend it in your writing, in your talking, etc. That's a different thing. This is not the time to defend, because it's being attacked by an inconsequential person. There is no need to defend. And you have to decide what battles are you going to fight. This is all part of the definition, the unfolding definition of dharma that we'll be doing over the course of these days. So being at peace with everything, peace is not just automatically it happens. It has to be negotiated. It has to be, you have to see that the choices that you make are going to either break it or make it. And you have to decide what is important, so that you don't just sit in the sidelines and say, oh, yes, somebody is burning down my house and I want Shanti, so I'm just going to keep quiet. No, that's the time to sort of make a complaint and chase the person away or do whatever is needed. But the small battles, one has to let go. This is what it's called uparati. Uparama means taking a mini sannyasa from all those preoccupations that keep one up at night for no reason at all. What does it matter? Somebody cut in line. Let them. It's okay. Somebody challenged me and said you are wrong. Okay, let them. You be bigger and allow that person to have their way. This is why the dharma is something to be accomplished. And that's why it is a universal desire. That Shanti is a universal desire. Acting in harmony and righteousness may not be a universal desire. Because if you ask the person, do you want to follow dharma? They will say, no, absolutely not. I don't want to follow dharma. Chindi, bindi means I want to snatch, I want to tear, I want to snatch what belongs to you. This is the, the Daivasura Sampatti. The 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita talks about this. Konyosti sadrisho maya, who is like me? Nobody is like me. I am the best. Yakshye dasyami modishye. I just want to revel. I want to snatch. I want to do this. And the Bhagavad Gita says that for such people, they have only two categories with which they deal with the world. Mine and not yet mine. That's what it is. All the things in the world, they belong to me. Or they should belong to me. They're not yet mine. It will become mine soon. Prapsye, I will get that. I will get your wealth. I will do this. Chindi, bindi means I will tear you apart. I will get this. I'll ride roughshod over all your desires, over your rights, over your privileges. This is what is called asuri vritti. Asuri vritti means this is the tendency. The bestial tendency. Not the best tendency. Bestial. Bestial means what? Kind of beast-like, animalesque. What does the animal do in the wild? I just want to survive. I don't care if you survive. That's why I'm going to eat you and survive. And the animal can do that because that is the way of the wild. That is what is called prakrita buddhi, as nature made, because that's what the animal survives by eating off the other. This is nature's, has ordained like that. But you don't have that excuse. You are a human being. I told you. The human being means one has a striving to become better than the animal, to be more cultured, to be more at peace. The animal is not the lion doesn't say, I'm sick of this killing, I am going to just be peaceful from now on. I'm just going to sit and do mala, the lion. Even if it does that, let a little, what is that called? Rabbit come near it. It will, put the mala aside and grab hold, swallow the rabbit. That's what it will do. Is it better now? Okay. Got it? Yeah. Not sure what happened, but we have sound now. Thank you for letting me know. How long it went? What was the last thing you heard? What you heard last thing? This is a little quiz. Lion. Lion and the rabbit. Okay, okay. Okay, no problem. Lion and the rabbit. So this is nice, even though if the lion turns into a sannyasi, and it doesn't have to do much, it's already kind of orange to begin with. So it doesn't even have to go shopping for dhotis. And, it just sits there. And what does it do? It picks up a mala and just a rabbit scurries across, because the rabbit thinks, okay, the lion has undergone a change of heart. It's going to pounce on the rabbit and swallow it up. It's not going to leave the rabbit alone. And so too, and that is appropriate for the lion. And why is it appropriate for the lion? Because it's Prakriti. It has to survive, and it has to survive by catching the rabbit, and the rabbit has to survive by running away from the lion. It is the law of nature. But you have free will. The human being has free will, and that makes for a different kind of, what's that? A different kind of a benchmark for the kinds of choices I exercise. For the lion, it is simple. Shall I eat rabbit or deer? Well, deer, it's far and it runs faster. Rabbit is right here. Let me just go for it. And then if I want, I can have the deer later. Very simple. Same thing, the cow grazing in the pasture may say, I'll graze on this side. There are more little daisies hidden in the grass. This side is not so. That's it. Those are the kinds of choices the animals make. But for you, in whom there is complete freedom, one is free enough to make choices, one is free enough to judge oneself, and this freedom has to be exercised carefully, because without which, there is no dharma, there is no harmony. And even if somebody has asuri vritti, like the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita describes, even if somebody has this kind of an asuri vritti, you tell the person, would you like your stuff to be stolen away from you? No. Do you want to be cheated? No. Do you want to be lied to? No. Do you want to be defrauded? You ask the hedge fund person, a hedgy person who has cheated a lot of people, who is now in jail. What was his name? Madoff. You ask Madoff. Madoff will say, no, I don't want other people to cheat me. I don't want other people to double cross me. So that is the desire for dharma. It's indirectly felt because nobody wants to be dharmic. You give a choice, anybody will say, I don't want to be dharmic. But you ask the person indirectly, do you want other people to be non-dharmic towards you? They will say, do you want other people to be inharmonious to you? They will say, absolutely not. I want other people to be harmonious towards me. I don't want them to be, to wrong me in any way. That's why every newspaper has a section sometimes on dumb criminals. People that were habitual offenders that gave themselves away because of the love of dharma. Think about it, it's so funny. So we hear so many stories, like the fellow who was drug dealing, he was a marijuana seller off the streets in a state and age where the marijuana was not legal. So he was selling it illegally, and along with his newfound friend, again within quotes, because you'll see what happens, A friendship between thieves is not a good pact. It falls apart quickly. And so these two friends, they said, okay, you sell one bag over here and I'll sell the other bag this side, and then we will meet at this appointed time in this appointed place and share the loot. Okay. So they went the separate ways, and our fellow, our protagonist, reached in his bag to get out his bag of drugs because he saw some potential customers coming, and to his horror, his bag was gone. This bag of drugs was gone, and he knew that in that moment where that other man gave him a hug and said, yes, bro, we'll do this, we'll get rich, we'll have a good life, he felt a tugging sensation on his bag, but he didn't think much of it. But now he's convinced, and in fact that's what happened, that the man took 2 bags and absconded. And he quickly goes to that appointed place where that fellow was supposed to be selling in that locality. Of course, nobody has heard of him. He is nowhere to be seen. And this distraught thief, whose rights were violated, what does he do? Immediately calls 911. Like I said, in a state and an age where this was not legal. And then what does he say? Oh, I want to report a stolen object. What was your object? The officer asked. Well, I had 2 bags of drugs, 2 kilos of marijuana, and both of them have gone missing. I was supposed to, I gave it to this friend, and this is his description. Before searching for the friend, they clapped him in jail, correct? Yeah. And that's why we have all these stories of dumb criminals whose love of dharma overtook their own, their own survival. In fact, keeping shut would have saved him from the jail. Keeping shut and, taking the losses in stride would have saved them from the jail. But no, he had to advertise it. And I read another story where these 2 fellows, decide to make off with a, 68-inch plasma television from somebody's house in a rich neighborhood. And so one of them comes in the getaway car, and that was the idea. And the other one, is going to, steal the TV from the house. The blessed thing is really heavy. He can't drag it to the street, and he's afraid to attract attention. So what does he do? He steals a comforter also and puts it behind the bushes in the backyard and then covers the TV, comes out to flag down the getaway car. And the getaway car comes and his friend also comes and both of them go to the backyard to, he needs the help of the friend to load the TV into the car. Horror of horrors, somebody has come back, all that is left is a blanket. And both these thieves are so outraged that they call 911 again, and the first thing the person asks is, what is missing? TV from where? This house. Is this your house? No. Do you live here? No. Then what were you doing with your TV in the backyard of somebody else's house? There's no explanation. Both of them go to jail. This is what it is. So the love of dharma is so much that you give yourself away. This is the whole thing. And that is what we call purushartha. Otherwise, it just becomes like a pat discussion. Dharma, first purushartha, artha, kama, and then finally moksha. No. Why is dharma the first purushartha? Why is dharma so loved? Because I don't want my rights, privileges, and everything to be flouted. I want to be treated fairly and squarely. But you know what? That cannot happen until you learn to treat others fairly and squarely. Yes, yeah, you are able to give a good talk. Very, very, nice. I could hear it. But you haven't answered an important question. What is that question? I'm a very dharmic person. Okay, that's good for you. Well, not so good for me, because even though I am dharmic, other people are not dharmic towards me. This is everybody's problem. Everybody has this feeling. I am dharmic, all right, but other people are not dharmic towards me. This is terrible. Well, dharma, this is part 3 of dharma. Part 3 of the definition of dharma is that it is connected closely to karma. Yes, not korma, that is a vegetable dish, Yeah. It is connected to karma. Very slowly, very closely connected to karma. And so, if, what about all those times where I flouted other people's rights and privileges, where I made them sad, I caused them to just have so much consternation, so much inconvenience, so much sorrow I heaped upon their lives because of my actions. They have to come back, right? Yeah. It's like when you eat, cucumber, it talks back in the form of a burp. Yes? So this is the karmic burp of previous actions. If one finds oneself being dharmic, but the favor is not being returned, and not just once or twice, but it's constant, then one has to bring in part 3, which is karma, which is my own actions. And I don't know what they are, because there is apohanam, forgetting. Yes? Thank God, because I don't want to keep feeling guilty for those actions. But I have to grow in grace and integrity in order to see those, and in order to allow those results of actions to just be, exhausted. To go through the results of actions with the same grace and integrity. So we can go back to the example of somebody belligerent cutting in line. So you're standing in line, somebody cuts in line. So you can take it as a flouting of dharma. Yes, it is. Your own dharma has been flouted. And you can also take it as your karma. Who knows what I did in the last life? Maybe I sat on this fellow's head and made him, flouted or, walked and danced all over his privileges. And now the just desserts are coming. And then I have to learn to eat, what I sowed. I have to learn to reap what I sow with a certain grace. This is what it is. With a certain grace, I have to learn to do that. And so both those things are there. You cannot unequivocally say it's just because my dharma is being flouted. You cannot categorically say it's only my karma. It's usually a combination. 50% 50, 50-50, 40-60, 80-20, doesn't matter, 70-30, you decide, doesn't matter, whatever it is. Even Bhagavan Krishna says, Gahana karmano gatihi. I don't, the way of karma is very mysterious and is just covered. That's why it is avyakta, unmanifest. It's being manifest as we speak, but it is the mechanisms of it are invisible. So instead of feeling guilty that it's my karma or feeling outraged that somebody has, violated my rights, there is a middle way. And what is that middle way? That middle way is, to grow in my emotional stature, to allow this to not matter. That's what it is. To grow in integrity and acceptance of the things that cannot be changed. I have to add that. Otherwise one becomes a doormat. Yes, please walk over me. You also come, walk, 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 dance on my head. No. What cannot be changed, that is what we are talking about. We are talking about not, not being able to alter the inevitable. And what to do with this? This is what is the crux of the things. So this dharma is there in every heart. Is there. This dharma is there along with all the other raga dveshas. We'll come to that tomorrow. Slowly, slowly, we are building upon this. And, this dharma is there along with all the prejudices, preferences, desires, and all the things that I want to do, lists of priorities, bucket list, along with all the negative emotions, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, jealousy, fears, all these things, anger. All these things are sitting along with the love for harmony and the love for justice, the love for peace. All that are sitting. Which one are you going to invoke? It reminds me of the story, a Native American story told to children. So the grandmother is telling the child this story of a two-headed wolf. One head of the wolf is very nice and friendly looking and does not bite. The other head of the wolf is just got bloody fangs, horrible looking face, and is just out to get blood, out to eat you up. And the grandmother says to the grandchild, this is the two-headed wolf, and along with its body the head also will grow. And the grandchild says, which head will grow, grandma? And the grandmother said, that head will grow, the one that you feed. Whichever head you feed, that head will grow. This is what it is. And so here too, in the heart, Sarvesham hridi sannivishtaha. I am in the heart of all people, O Arjuna, Bhagavan Krishna says. I am in everyone's heart, in the form of this dharma, in the form of that tranquility, that peace, and that desire for peace is there, along with all the other things. Which one is going to grow? Which desire is going to grow? The one that you feed. That's what it is. So the more you feed this, the more you act in order to notice this desire for harmony and act in accordance with it, the easier it is for this to grow, for this desire to grow. And when this desire to grow, it crowds out all the other desires. It is remaining, it has the mainstay in the heart. And then this knowledge is a cakewalk. It's a walkover. You don't have to do anything about it. I'll stop here. We can have some questions if there are, and we can go from there. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Any questions? Nice to see all of you. So nice. Wonderful. Lovely. Yeah. Om. Is there a difference in being a pushover versus dharmic? Yeah, absolutely. The pushover has some other patterns that the pushover is reproducing. There is usually fear, fear of, working for your rights. The person who is dharmic is spontaneously and naturally so. The pushover has a complex, feels victimized. The person who is dharmic doesn't feel victimized because you have exercised your choice to be that way. The pushover is pushed over, you see? Ah, all the best. See you later tomorrow. Om.